For those that don't know, NGOs serve the gap in the market between what the public sector can provide for its citizens and what they can afford in the private sector. Now, the need, of course, is growing. The amount of NGOs over the last couple of years have been growing, from 140,000 in 2015 to 250,000 in 2020. Now, an NGO called the Love Trust has called on all of us to rethink how we plan our CSI. I have a chat to Silas Pillay, who's Director of Academics at the Love Trust. You're listening to our social newscast with me, Sam Marshall, brought to you by www.social-tv.co.za. Talk to us about the Love Trust and the work that it's been doing.
So I think with the Love Trust, I'm really passionate about the cause. It was founded in 2009, an NPO with a vision to nurture future generations of servant leaders, primarily to look at the vulnerable children and communities that need quality education and social care, that being academic excellence, spiritual strength, and then moral integrity built into our service provisioning. We have a fully fledged pre-primary and primary school which caters for around 350 odd learners. And then our passion is on teacher development and training and upliftment in the ECD space. And for that, we have a fully fledged Nakopila Teacher Training Academy, as well as extending that reach out to our different provinces. And we have about 9 to 11 teacher training centers that carry through the same level of interest in terms of teacher development and thorough preparation of this very important phase teaching ability in the different provinces, which range from Gauteng, KZN, Western Cape, Free State, etc.
But you've asked us, and I love this question. I think it's a very important question. You've asked us just to rethink how our corporate social investment is planned, especially in the time of COVID-19, especially in a time when resources are incredibly strained, especially in a time when the human condition has been tested in a way it's never been tested before.
Absolutely. I think, Sam, the vital role that is provided by NPOs like the Love Trust that provides free, affordable services to the vulnerable in our society serves that gap and really reaches the areas that the companies and in terms of corporate social investment being targeting into the phases of need. We are that agent that can bring that to the table. And as people that are practitioners and experts in the field of engagement in these sectors, I think what we're proposing is to look at NPOs as partners of social development and to bring them to the table in terms of working together at, like you say, at such a devastating time in our community and our country at large, to target long-term solutions and just make that impact that is so needed out there in terms of social upliftment. And of course, just looking at empowering teachers at this very, very dire, critical phase of development for learners. And it is a collaboration that we believe is a winning strategy. So I think that's the proposal when we talk of rethinking how CSI is planned. While we really value the sponsorship, and we won't be able to reach what public sector cannot without the NPO side, we are saying let's work together in mapping out that strategy more effectively and look at innovation in a time that is, calling on us to do such.
You're a leader in this space, and obviously you're speaking to other leaders. You are engaging with both private and public sector institutions. Has everybody calmed down now? I know initially when the COVID hit, everybody was scrambling and a lot of that money was driven towards PPEs, maintaining the integrity and some of the structure of some of the programs that were in place before. But we also know that there was a lot of bureaucracy and red tape around getting things done. COVID comes, and all of a sudden, some of the very traditional rules of, oh, we have to do it this way and we have to do it that way, is tossed out of the window because there's a need on the ground and people need to react immediately. It's now 5-6 months in. Is everybody calmed down? Are the leaders talking? Are they having the right conversations? Are you having the right conversations at the moment?
Yeah, I think we definitely have, and we are engaging in the real crux of things. And in terms of settling down and having the right leadership dialogue and debate in this regard, I would say we're leaning on that very strongly now. As a Love Trust, certainly we positioning ourselves in that space of being still focused on the long-term needs, as opposed to the scramble that you alluding to, Sam, where there is a need for food parcels. We've been involved in that, and we've rolled out to every one of our beneficiaries in the school community, as well as the ECD starters of which we cover around more than 35 currently. But the keeping sustainability in terms of the provisioning of teach training and childcare in terms of all the developmental areas is the crux of the conversation. We cannot abandon the medium and long-term strategy of changing social inequity and bringing about poverty alleviation on a large, longer-term scale, while we get caught up, like you said, in this frenzy of just meeting immediate needs. And I think that's the balance that we are getting in terms of our networking. We encourage that to continue. We're renegotiating deliverables and looking at longer term expectations. We're really grateful for the donors that keep their eye on their targets of looking at a longer term investment as opposed to just the short term, reach right now. So I think we're on the right track there.
Have you seen that shift in focus? You've now mentioned that twice, that there seems to be, is there a fear from yourself, your organization, that the short-term need and the short-term focus is so overwhelming the daily narrative that people are getting sucked into it? Have you seen it? And that's why you're calling for cool heads to prevail?
Yeah, I think, look, that's the crux of the article written by one of our ECD managers as well, is I think NGOs on the larger scale, and we're blessed to have that stability of donors with the same heart and vision. But if we look at the bigger scale of NPOs like ourselves, I think they're under tremendous strain, and in terms of sustainability and the precariousness of thousands having to close their doors. We just see that devastating impact and effect that it could have on the communities in question and on the economy as a whole. And we want to flag that. And we're really grateful, Sam, for the opportunity from Social TV and yourself, taking in this much needed cause out there to champion it. We've definitely seen the challenge, and the fact that there's a lot of rechanneling, or there was, into short term and medium term, and we see the need. But for those donors that have their eye on the longer term, which is so much more needed. I mean, we cannot deal with the fruits of the challenge without really going down to root level. And that's what the Love Trust and organizations like ourselves are doing. So quite right. We have seen the shift, but I think we cannot echo this enough. That sentiment needs to get out there, and we need to enlarge the scope and reach. I'm not saying we abandon the short term, but I'm saying we've got to have that balance of keeping our view on longer term sustainability in education, particularly in this foundation critical area of ECD.
There's been a growing number of NGOs over the past few years. I mean, in 2015, it was 140,000 NGOs. In 2020, it's 250,000, give or take those that have succumbed to the virus operationally. But also we also know that CSI spend, I think last year was just under 11 billion rand. And That's according to the Trilog handbook. How do we, I mean, at 250,000 NGOs, obviously that pot is getting considerably bigger. I mean, there are more and more NGOs joining the fray, seeing a need and wanting to address that need. But does that not become a headache for an organization as well? And I know that organizations in the last couple of years have really streamlined and have moved towards their flagship programs. It's becoming more and more difficult to stick your head out of the sand and say, fund us, fund us.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I think the challenge is to bring collaboration into the space, and that call is becoming greater. And like you said, comparatively over that 5-year basis of 140,000 2015 growing to 250,000 or more, and with, in the same vein, looking at the strain on sustainability of NGOs and NPOs right now, and donor funding being a tall ask in terms of spreading that. It's quite thinly spread. I think for me, the issue would be encouraging forging of links and collaboration and partnership. If we're on the same journey and we look at reinventing and redefining ourselves, I mean, COVID has called on all of us to just be that much more astute and prudent in delivering and staying true to the cause, but doing it in a much more smarter way. And the vehicle's changing, but the destination staying the same. So I would echo that sentiment. I fully endorse and agree with your suggestion here that we should not be looking at extending more broadly, but coming together on a more formidable foundation, championing this much needed cause, because a lot of funds have been diverted towards the basic education and, if not, the higher education space, and we celebrate the fruits at the top. But what has been marginalized traditionally is this importance of training and keeping solid education practitioners. I mean, it couldn't be a more apt day that you call, Sam, because it is a Teachers' Day commemoration as well. So the unsung heroes need to be really equipped, and we then servicing the future generations, which is, I don't think we need to look at it as a marginal space, is what I'm saying. And it doesn't need to be a competitive one either. It should be one where we pull our resources together, because the need out there. I mean, if we look at the stats on that sector, there's over 5 million between the ages of 0 to 4, and currently we have very few, if not 1.5 million, that are actually accessing quality early childhood development. And so we need to definitely look at pulling our resources together.